You have everything you were supposed to want. A job, a place to stay, people around you, Netflix at night, the weekend coming up. And yet, something feels off. Not broken, not painful, not dramatic enough to talk about. Just empty. Like you're living inside a comfortable shell of a life, but somehow not inside the life itself. If that feeling is familiar, even slightly, this video is for you. Because what I want to explore today is a question that sounds almost offensive when you say it out loud. What if comfort itself, the thing we've been told to optimize our entire lives for, is actually one of the greatest threats to feeling alive? That's not a motivational cliche. That's not just go outside more advice. That's a clinical observation made by one of the most unlikely psychologists of the 20th century. A man who had everything taken from him, and used that experience to understand something most of us, living in comfort, may never fully grasp on our own. His name was Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was a Viennese psychiatrist, brilliant, ambitious, already developing his own school of psychology before he was 40. While Freud focused on pleasure, while Adler focused on power, Frankl was asking a different question entirely. What are human beings actually living for? Then, in 1942, he was arrested, deported to Auschwitz, then to 3 other concentration camps. His wife, his parents, his brother, almost everyone he loved, killed. He lost everything. Except one thing. The last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. That line isn't poetry. It's a clinical observation from a man who watched people survive and collapse under identical conditions. Because here's what Frankl noticed, and this is what makes him different from every psychologist of his era. The prisoners who survived psychologically, not just physically, were the ones who had something to live for. A person they needed to return to, a manuscript unfinished, a mission they felt wasn't complete. Meaning wasn't a luxury, it was the immune system of the soul. After the war, Frankl went back to Vienna, rebuilt his practice, wrote a book about his experience in the camps in 9 days. That book, Man's Search for Meaning, has sold over 16 million copies. But the part most people miss is what Frankl wrote after the survival story. The part about the people who had never been to Auschwitz, the people who had everything, and still felt nothing. After the war, Frankl rebuilt his psychiatric practice, and he started seeing a pattern he hadn't expected. His patients weren't survivors of war. They weren't fleeing anything. They were comfortable, middle class, often successful by every external measure, and deeply, quietly miserable. He gave this condition a name, the existential vacuum. Not depression in the clinical sense, not anxiety, not burnout, something more specific, and in many ways more frightening. A profound inner emptiness that comes not from suffering, but from the absence of meaning. Here's why this happens. For most of human history, survival kept us anchored. You didn't have time to wonder whether your life had meaning. You were too busy securing it. But modernity solved survival for millions of people, and in doing so, it handed us something no previous generation had to face at scale. Freedom without direction. When you don't have to fight for basic needs, the question rises, what am I actually living for? And if you have no answer ready, the vacuum fills itself with substitutes. Frankl described 3 main ways people try to fill the vacuum without actually filling it. The first, the will to pleasure. Binge eating, binge watching, scrolling, not for enjoyment, but for numbing. The second, the will to power. Chasing status, chasing followers, chasing the next salary level. Not out of genuine ambition, but compensation. The third, conformism. Just doing what everyone else is doing. Not belonging, but disappearing into the crowd so you don't have to answer the question. None of these fill the vacuum. They delay the feeling, they distract from it. But eventually, on a quiet Sunday evening, when there's nothing urgent left to do, it's right there, waiting.
Let me ask you something.
Think about Sunday evening. Not Sunday morning, the evening, around 6 or 7 p.m. The weekend is almost over. There's nothing urgent to do. How do you feel? If the answer involves a low-grade restlessness, a vague anxiety, a compulsive need to pick up your phone and scroll without really looking for anything, that might not be laziness. That might not be introversion. That might not even be tiredness. That might be the vacuum knocking. Frankl literally called this Sunday neurosis, the depression that hits people when the rush of the busy week drops away and the lack of content in their life becomes audible. He was writing in the 1950s. He couldn't have imagined what would come next. Because social media doesn't just distract from emptiness, it shows you a curated version of everyone else's apparent meaning. Their passion projects, their purpose-driven careers, their families that look exactly the right amount of imperfect, which makes your own vacuum feel louder by comparison. And then it sells you something to fill it. For about 11 minutes. Then you need more. There's one more modern version Frankl never named, but would have recognized immediately. Productivity as meaning. The person who fills every hour with optimized tasks, morning routines, side hustles, not because they're passionate, but because being busy feels like purpose. Until they stop. And the vacuum is right there. Busyness is the socially acceptable mask the vacuum wears. Frankl wasn't a nihilist. He didn't leave people in the dark. He said meaning can be found, always, even in the most constrained life, through 3 channels. The first, what you give to the world. Your work, your creation. What you build and contribute, not for applause, but because it matters to you. The second, what you receive from the world. A piece of music that hits you at the right moment. A landscape that takes your breath. Another person's face when they're fully present with you. We can receive meaning, not only create it. The third, and this one is the most radical, the attitude you choose toward unavoidable suffering. Even in a life that has taken everything from you, meaning is still possible in how you choose to meet what cannot be changed. And then Frankl had one question that consistently broke through the vacuum. Not, what do you want? That leads back to pleasure. Not, what are you afraid of? That leads back to avoidance. His question was, what is the world waiting for from you? It shifts the entire axis, from self-obsession to contribution, from what can I get to what does this moment require of me? It sounds small, but according to Frankl and decades of research in meaning psychology that followed, it changes everything. Here's what I want to leave you with. Comfort is not the enemy. But comfort without meaning is a padded cell. You can have everything the world told you to want and still feel like you're watching your life from behind glass. Frankl's message isn't go suffer. It's stop outsourcing the question of meaning to algorithms and calendars and other people's expectations. Because the vacuum doesn't fill itself, and it won't be filled by the next hit of dopamine either. It fills, slowly, imperfectly, when you decide what you're actually for. I want to ask you one thing before you go. Not what your goals are, not what you're optimizing for, Just this. What's one thing you do that feels genuinely meaningful? Not impressive, not productive, just meaningful to you. Drop it in the comments. I read them all. And if this video made you think, share it with someone who might need it today. I'll see you in the next one.